Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another light novel review. I am the Rat, and this is The Rat's Nest, once again reporting in from Hawaii. If you're watching this at the time of recording, obviously we're in the break week for Mushoku Tensei right after Turning Point 3 of the anime. And, you know, I've read a few books here. I've taken some time to myself to sit on the beach and read to varying degrees of success, but if nothing else, I have finished, in fact, Mushoku Tensei books 17, 18, and 19, so I wanted to bring to you all today a review of volume 17. Now, before we begin, I will say one spoiler warning. I know everything there is to know about Mushoku. I can't say everything, right? I've read the entire web novels. I've read Old Dragon's Tale, Joppa Sublime, all that good stuff. I will forget key details very easily, just because that's just who I am. I will pretend like I know everything when in fact I actually know nothing. But spoiler warning for everything. I don't know what I'll talk about, but I will probably talk about stuff, especially stuff in the future. So if you're not in for that, here's your warning. And also, I would like to apologize for any recording quality issues. If I need to go back and re-record this episode once I'm home and back from my trip, I can and I will. But I wanted to record at least one of these volume reviews while I'm here in Hawaii. One, just because the further I get from reading it, the more everything kind of leaves my mind already. It's been a second since I finished 17. I've read this pretty early on. But also because it's just a nice little memento. But I do apologize. My recording setup is not like it's anything impressive anyways. But I know there's been some issues with the episode recordings themselves. So please bear with me there. And I'm trying to do everything I can to minimize it. But who knows, right? Anyways, enough chitter chatter, enough jibber jabber, right? Who cares? Who cares about any of this stuff, right? We're here to talk about Mushoku Tensei, specifically light novel volume 17, the second half of our little Asura kingdom arc here, where we get to see Ariel take the throne and Rudy do his first job for Orsted here, right? Help Ariel onto the throne, make sure that she becomes Queen of Asura, which obviously he succeeds. I read volume 16 a long time ago, so I do apologize. My memories of everything that happened there aren't terribly clear. But what I do know is volume 17, because I've read that. So that's so true. Anyways, volume 17 is, it's, the second half of the arc, right? There's a bunch of different things that happen, but we start off with them teleporting to Asura, right? And we kind of get their journey in. The main things that kind of happen in are looking at Auber and the North Kings, and then looking at getting Triss on their side, going in and Ariel having her little stage thing where she brings down Perugius and defeats Grable, all that great stuff. Obviously the standoff with water god Rada, then ending it with one of the biggest plot reveals in Mushoku Tensei, with the reveal of Orsted's time loops, which is kind of insane. And then actually a last chapter, which I didn't know was here, simply titled 3 question marks, that shows Geese and Hitogami's conversation to get Geese to be his kind of acting third apostle, which was really weird. I don't remember that being in the web novel. So this is my first time reading through the light novel. I've only read the web novel before this. I read the web novel probably 5 years ago at this point. So it's been a while. But there was definitely moments and stuff that I remembered. And some stuff I think was changed. I could be completely wrong on that. I'll mention it whenever I touch on it, but if I remember anyhow. But let's just get right into it. So kind of coming in, right, let's hit some of the high points here, because I've got laundry and I don't want it to be waiting too long, right? I'm a professional here. We have Auber, and being kind of, to say, the main antagonist of this volume. That could go to Darius or Rada, depending on how you want to look at it. But Auber is the most consistent threat to Rudeus and his crew, right? Where we see him ambush them with the North King, Weetaw, and the two guys. the two guys, we see him work his little ambush magic there, right? Their first fight, I really enjoyed their first fight. Getting to kind of see Wita in action. Mushoku Tensei isn't like a fighting series, right? You can power scale some, but not a ton, and it's not meant to be power scaled, right? Obviously, top two of the verse, Dragon God, Demon God. Like, just objectively top two of the verse. Currently, right now, top of the verse, Orsted and Hitogami. Like, that's just how it is. A lot of the fights of Mushoku Tensei, which I really do enjoy, kind of takes place like depending on where is the fight taking place, not just necessarily he will always be him, yada yada yada. I can really appreciate that, and I think that when Mushoku Tensei does do combat, right, it's not intended to be like a shonen, it's not like JoJo's, but it can still do it really well, and I think that part of the area where it exceeds is definitely this volume with the North Kings. And Amber himself, where it's, these short, decisive battles, especially the second battle against the North, is over in just a couple seconds, if I'm remembering Rudy's words correctly, right? Where he's like, it's decided fast. That's just how Mushoku Tensei battles are. But I did really enjoy getting to see Wita in like his reflective armor and messing with Gisline, and just kind of being a general nuisance there, Rudy kind of thinking through it, and just really the mind games that Rudy was playing with Auber, kind of reminiscent. I've just finished volume 19 of the light novel, and so I really enjoy getting to kind of see that again. Kind of parallels Randolph later in volume 19 to a much lesser degree, but the mind games that Auber plays, where Rudy knows that he's coming, he knows how he's going to be there, right? But he ignores Orsted's warning, and he gets involved in the fight. And then that second, like earlier in the book, he was like, Orsted told me that Auber likes to attack the split second that mages focus anywhere else. The split second after they cast an attack, that's when he likes to attack. Then he casted a spell, and then there Auber was. That's really cool to me. I really like it whenever, getting to see, I guess, Orsted's knowledge work out, but like in this way specifically, I think was really interesting because it's not just Rudy getting the upper hand because of Orsted's knowledge, which I'm fine with, right? But it's getting to see one Orsted be correct, and then like I guess Rudy's surprise at it being correct, and Auber's surprise at like whoa, like whoa, I didn't think he'd notice me. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I do enjoy. It's like, because we knew about it, Rudy knew about it, and then like he was still surprised that it happened. I think maybe that's what's cool about it to me. I don't know, but I do really like it. Then Auber obviously trying to get away, and Orsa's knowledge of whenever Auber is trying to escape, he's going to escape. Like you cannot stop him from escaping. That's just an objective fact. He's going to get away. I really like that. I can't wait to see all this animated right in season 3 or season 4 of the anime, but getting to read about Auber's fight and his fight techniques, I really enjoyed, just because it's so, I guess, different from what we're typically used to in Mushoku Tensei. It's definitely more of like, to say, a stylized battle, which I really enjoyed. This first interaction was probably my favorite of the 3. I don't know. The last one was pretty good too. The second battle, I did enjoy because Rudy spotted him beforehand, kind of using Orsted's knowledge plus his own. But kind of getting a little further into the book, right? They're going through. This book actually introduces something, and I guess kind of introduced last volume too, but really kind of gets into it. One of the most interesting things to follow in these Mushoku Tensei arcs to come, right? Obviously, next big arc being the Sharona Kingdom arc, and then after that being with Claire, and then after the reveal of Geese, the rest of it. But following who Hitogami's disciples or apostles are. I can't remember them. Why can't I remember the exact word? I don't know. The apostles. I think that's the word. I don't know. Maybe I'm just focused on Berserk. Kyle's been reading Berserk, so I've been kind of in a Berserk mindset. But getting to see Rudy's thought process throughout all this, where he's trying to figure out, okay, who are the apostles, right? It's very likely Darius is one, because he is, position of power, greedy, right? He's literally everything Hitogami could basically want in an apostle. other than like physical power himself. They were like, Auber could be one, Rada could be one, or it could be Luke. Right? That's Rudy's big suspicion, is that Luke's an apostle, and obviously Luke is an apostle, and kind of just throughout the book getting to see the scenes of them at odds with one another, both of them, and like, not knowing 100% if Luke is an apostle or not. That's really cool. And then Orsted obviously being very convinced of it, and later Rudy being convinced of it as well. But not just questioning, okay, are they a disciple? Are they not a disciple? Like then going back and thinking, well, what do they know? Right? What is Hitogami trying to do here? Right? And I think that it's really interesting to kind of think about how is Hitogami playing the court? Right? How is he playing the board? What pawns are his? Where is he moving them? Why is he moving them there? What's their purpose? Right? That's something that I think shines really well in Shirone, where we don't know who his apostles are, and we don't really know what he's truly trying to do, and Rudy thinks he does, and obviously that causes problems. I love Volume 9. It's a great volume for so many different reasons. But this is kind of the beginning, not really the beginning of that, but it's the first time where it plays like this major of a role in a Mushoku Tensei arc. And I really, really enjoy kind of that psychological aspect to it. Because like I said, Mushoku Tensei isn't like a traditional shonen where you're reading it for the cool fights, and there are cool fights, and I think it's fine to read it for that. But a lot of the meat and potatoes is this kind of more psychological, character-driven stuff, which I really, really like. And so just getting to see that throughout. Then we get to Triss, right? They get to the border, and they're attacked by Auber. They're going through. They need to meet up with Triss. And before this, I think we get Ariel talks with Rudy, where she's like, I want to meet Orsted. She meets Orsted. Fun scene. I love Orsted. Second favorite character in the entire series after Rudy, obviously. But anytime I get to see Orsted do anything, and especially interact with characters he doesn't typically interact with, or in situations where he doesn't typically appear in, right? I really enjoy getting to see that. And this is kind of the first kind of hint we get towards his true nature with his time loops. But he's telling her about, like, this is what's going to happen. I need this in this battle, right? And then he's like, look, like, Luke might be an apostle, might be a disciple, whatever you want to call him, but he hasn't betrayed you, right? He's like, I don't know what Hitogami's told him, but whatever he's told him, whatever Luke is doing, he's doing to help you because he thinks it's helping you. That's in his mind. Like he has not betrayed you, right? And that's what Ariel wanted to hear. That's just a good little scene. I really, really enjoyed that. Again, getting to kind of see Orsted and Ariel interact with two characters, like why would they be interacting? And just anytime Ariel's kind of crazy, wouldn't y'all say? That's so true. No, but then so Triss, right? Finally, wow, yeah, I've been trying to get to Triss for a while, haven't I? I'm so organized. Yeah. Triss, I really like the inclusion of Triss in this story, not just because her character design. Pretty sure she's above 18. I can't say for certain, so I'm going to decline to comment that she's because I don't know. I will say one thing talking about age was like Rudy commented on Eris like looking at everything and being like whimsical. He's like, man, she really hasn't lost any of her childlike enthusiasm at 20. I'm like, dude, I'd forgotten how young everyone is in this series. I mean, I'm just 21, but it's like I've been reading since I was 14. Like, oh man, I'm like, don't say that, Rudy. Oh, that's a very side tangent, but getting to see Triss in this story, because I think it's a really good example of how much Rudy overcomplicates things. Right? We've already seen that, with Dead End and everything there, and yada yada this, yada yada that. Especially. Looking later on with some of the work he does for Orsted. There's a lot of times where Rudy overcomplicates things to the point where he doesn't need to. This is one of those examples. And I really, really like how, I think that Rudy says it himself near the end of the volume where he's like, I was just kind of here. I did some stuff, but, Ariel did all the heavy lifting here, and Sylphie did the heavy lifting here, Eris here. He's like, I was just kind of here, right? Obviously he did stuff, but I really, really like that aspect of Mushoku Tensei where it's not just Rudeus doing stuff, right? it's definitely a group effort, and that shows, I think, really well here, where Rudy had his all complicated plan where he was like 50 steps to get Triss to trust us, and out comes Ariel and just rizzes her up immediately. Like it's really cool to me to get to see that, because it's like, yeah, like, Rudy, sure, he's the main character, but there are other people in this world that have their own talents, have their own things. He typically overcomplicates things. Just getting to see kind of that, I guess he had that help, that he doesn't have to do everything himself, right? That, he has his part to play, and he's going to play that. But it was really cool to get to see Triss react so readily with Ariel and connect so readily with Ariel. I just really enjoyed getting to see that, and just the whole thing where Rudy was like, oh yeah, no, yeah, that went a lot better than what if I had tried it. I think getting to see that side of things is really cool, especially just from a book series perspective. Getting to see events happen outside of the main character is always really interesting, I think. Not necessarily like outside of his control, but knowing that the people around him are reliable, and it's not just going to be a Dragon Ball thing. Oh, well, we're the job squad here to hold off Cell until Goku gets here, right? Yeah, there's not that doesn't exist in Mushoku Tensei. It's everyone has their part to play, and especially in this book, everyone has their part to play, and they play it really well. And also, I enjoy getting to use the future memory from the diary here to help them out with this. It was really cool to see, just kind of that aspect of it. Yeah. So they get to the capital. Ariel starts making her preparations for everything, right? A little bit more Orsted, yada yada this, yada yada that. And then we get to where it's the night before. She's calling a party to honor Grable, I think. And, everyone's like, okay, well, this is obviously going to be a political maneuver. Obviously it is. She's like, beforehand, we need to take some pieces off the board. So she's been setting the seeds for a trap to potentially, hopefully, trap the North Kings and Auber and take them off the board, so that they're not a problem tomorrow, right? The more pieces you can take off the board, the better of a chance you have. And so they go through, the trap is sprung. They get the two North Kings there, and they're about to fight, and then Rudy's trying to find Auber. He just barely finds them. He fires off his thing. Ghislaine takes Suita. Eris takes the two little fellas. Easily kills them. Ghislaine is able to defeat Suita pretty easily. And then Auber takes damage, but is able to ultimately get away. I did like, though, seeing the evolution from the first fight, Rudeus in the first fight, to Rudeus in the second fight. Getting to see how he used his knowledge there to kind of be like, okay, Auber's hiding somewhere. Where is he hiding? Like, where's a blind spot? Right? Where wanted I think to look? Those kind of thoughts that led him to see him on the wall. Where he's like, in daytime, that would be so obvious, but now at night, it's out of the reach of any lights, right? It's behind whoever, right? It's out of the range of view of this guy. And I just really enjoy getting to see that. I think that it shows a lot of intelligence on Rudeus' part. And for him to kind of, I guess to say, outsmart Auber after Auber kind of got the upper hand on him the first time they fought, right? I really enjoyed getting to see that, little growth, but that improvement from Rudeus, where he was like. Also, then I think he had to make a split judgment where Suita and Auber were going away, and he's like, well, Auber's getting away. He's like, I'm not going to remember him, right? He's like, we can't deal with two. We need to take care of one. So he's like, go after Suita. And they go after Suita, that's right, and they find him dead in an alleyway. And they're like, oh, Rudeus, congrats, you got him. And Rudeus, yeah, I got him, because he has a hole punched in him. So Orsted definitely helped him out. Props to the GOAT, right? Props to the GOAT. But that just leaves Auber as the ultimate kind of last remaining piece on the board. So they think, right? They haven't seen Rada yet. She's definitely around, but in terms of the North School, right? Auber is the last big piece on the board. So the party starts some political maneuvering. I do enjoy the kind of political maneuvering aspect of Mushoku Tensei. I think that kind of stuff can be done really interestingly. I think Mushoku Tensei is one of the instances where it's done really interestingly. And especially also because it doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, the political stuff isn't the focus of Mushoku Tensei at all. But whenever it's done really, really well. And then, it steps aside and lets other things take the stage. And I really like that. But, Ariel does her whole spiel, brings Triss out to destroy Darius. They go back and forth. And I really like the moment from the house Purple Horse, right? Where they turn on Darius. And it's like, oh. And I do enjoy Darius being prepared for that. Where he's like, look, she was dead, right? We found this, right, Mr. Purple Horse? And then he was like, nope, that's my daughter. You stole her from us. Darius is like, so that just happened. That's so true. He was like that, wasn't he? Oh. Darius's downfall is something that I think this is, I don't know to say, kind of weird to say, but I don't know. I guess it could be just because I've been reading through the light novels slower than I read through the web novels, obviously, but I don't know. I felt like I hated Darius more in the web novels. That could just be me. I don't know. I remember having an intense, hatred for him, either with the web novels, maybe with the manga. I don't know. Connected, obviously, back to everything with Eris, but I don't know. It's probably just because I've been so disconnected from it that his downfall didn't feel as satisfying. I don't know. It felt a little quick. I don't know. It's kind of weird to say. That felt a little less satisfying in the light novel. For the most part, everything's been the same as far as I've remembered it. There's not been any huge differences of note, of memory to me. There is one thing a little later on, like I mentioned earlier, that was I think was a little bit different. I remember it a little bit differently. But getting to see Darius' downfall, cool, right? I'm happy. I don't know, right? It wasn't quite as impactful. I can't say why. I really, I wish I could. I wish I could tell you why it felt less impactful, but then I think it was just quick. I think it just felt really quick. But so that's just stage one of Ariel's thing, right? Because like Rudy's saying, ultimately at this point in the game, Darius can go, right? Everything else, okay, cool, whatever. He's laid a bunch of groundwork, but now we're in the critical hour. Darius can go, and it's fine, right? Grable doesn't need to scrape and bow. He will, right? And I think he does kind of come to his aid a little bit, but ultimately, Darius isn't needed anymore. And then that's when Ariel decides to call in her second person. The person was Triss. Now she calls in her second person, obviously, Perugius Dola. The goat himself, one of the goats. There is a ton of goats. I call a lot of people in Mushoku Tensei the goat, because there are a lot of people in Mushoku Tensei who deserve to be called the goat, right? And Perugius is one of them. Calls him in, and he's like, oh, yada yada, all this cool stuff. And he comes up, there's 3 seats left, one in the middle where the monarch sits and the 2 on the side, and he asks Grable, where should I sit? And Grable's, there's no, I really liked how it was worded. Again, I do kind of like the whole political atmosphere of it, where Grable was like, yeah, there was literally no other thing he could have said other than sit at the center. Perugius like, oh no, I could never sit at the center in the place of the monarch of Asura. Ariel, you should take the seat. And then that's the moment Ariel won the throne, right? And this is cool, right? I like Ariel winning the throne. I like Ariel. Obviously, a long time coming. Everything with Ariel, Luke, and Fitz. Her finally winning the throne, right? Different from the diary, where obviously she lost and everyone died, and then a lot more people died. The diary is a little bit sad. The diary is a little tiny bit sad. But yeah, getting to see her kind of win, and especially in this way, this thoroughly, I really, really enjoyed, because this party is just kind of one scene, but it's the result of a lot of work behind the scenes for a while. At least, especially with Perugius. Ever since he was introduced, I think back in volume 14 was when he was introduced formally. I'm pretty sure that's right. So back in volume 14, he's introduced and just kind of been laying the groundwork since. And I really like Perugius as a character, where he's very serious. He has his code. He's very unique, but also he loves art. He's friends with Zenoba and Rudeus, and just how open he is to friendship with this main cast. And like it's weird. It's like he's almost one of the boys. Like, obviously he's not one of the boys. He ain't Rudy, Cliff, and Zenoba, right? But he's still friendly with the cast. He still helps them out. And I really like the kind of the history and the lore there too, where he fought against Laplace, and he knew the first king of Asura, and then wanting Ariel to give her answer as to what makes a good king, and all that stuff. I think I kind of talked on that last volume when it happened, but I really like getting to see kind of the conclusion to that here. I think Darius was maybe a little bit less of that, which is why it didn't feel as satisfying. I don't know. I think I'm touching on that too much. I still really liked it. I remember hating him a lot more before this. Maybe like coming into this, I knew that he'd get his comeuppance, so I didn't think as much about it. That could be it. The bias of knowing what's going to happen. But then we get Rada comes in, and it's like, uh-oh. And real quick, before I say that, I want to say something. I noticed, I don't know if it's a translation error in this volume, or maybe it was next volume or something. In one of these 3 volumes, 17, 18, or 19, I feel like they refer to Silveril as a he. And like, as far as I'm remembering and can see, Silveril is the heaven race with the mask. That's one of Perugius's familiars. And she's a woman. I mean, I could be completely mistaken. I'm pretty sure they were referring to Silveril with he pronouns. I'm also pretty sure that Silveril is the woman and has been typically referred to as with female pronouns before. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a text error or a translation error. I definitely noticed a couple in stupid volume 19, where they were talking about the princes, where Benedict was referred to as both the 18th and the 16th princess of the King Dragon Kingdom, and whatever the 11th prince was referred to as both the 11th prince and the 13th prince. The Mushoku Tensei English translators don't have the greatest history of flawless translations. It's probably just a translation issue that wasn't caught in editing, which is kind of weird, but whatever. That I could be very mistaken there as well. But Rada comes in, right? Small tangent aside, Rada comes in. Uh-oh. The water god, one of the 3 heads. I will say it's interesting to me how I don't think that Rada is given a ton of respect traditionally, and I just think that the water god style itself isn't given a ton of respect traditionally, just due to the fact that she wasn't one of the 7 great powers, underneath the sword god and the north god. I don't think that's against her. I think that more speaks to how busted is the sword god style, that the sword god is ranked higher than the north god. Now if they actually fought, who knows. But yeah, that's the beauty of Mushoku Tensei. In 19, Randolph is 5, and he's nowhere near Sword God Gal or Gino later. Nowhere near their levels. But he's still 5. That's just how that's how it works. Yada yada yada. Right? You yap on all you want. Rada is horrifying. She's absolutely terrifying. And this is another combat encounter that I really really like, where her whole thing is, right, she puts up her deprivation field. And if you move within it, you're dead. Simple as. I don't think she attacks you. Like, she can't attack you. She can only react in response to movements. But yeah, you're dead. If you literally can't do anything. Like, Rudy sends a magic through his ring, and like the fingers on his gauntlet get cut off. And they're the only things protecting his fingers from getting cut off completely, right? And I love how she uses this as like, okay, like, I'm here. I'm keeping everyone pinned down. Auber, I'm letting you move. Go kill them. They can't do anything. Just go kill them. It's essentially like time stop light. Not really, but it's kind of where it's like you can do whatever you want to people. But the consequence, if they move, they're dead, right? obviously she can't just kill. She probably could, but then she'd have to release deprivation field. Creates all these issues. So she lets Auber go, and then I really like this moment from Auber where kind of they're talking, and she's like, "Oh, like this is your mess to clean up. You still wanted to show off in front of your students," and he's very hesitant to go and kill like Perugius and Ariel and Rudeus. I think is the three Rada mentioned to start off by killing. He's very reluctant too, and I really like getting to see this side of Auber, where ultimately he's a swordsman, right? He was hired for this job. He picked it up, right? So he was going to do it. Working with Rada, working with Darius or Darius. I don't know how to pronounce it. But working with them. He doesn't like it to end this way. But ultimately he's like, whatever. Yes, I have to do it. I'll also say with Auber, I loved him meeting with Rudeus like for the first time formally at the beginning of the party, where they like introduce themselves to each other like they've never met before, and like both of them know they fly out. It's a cool scene. It's a cool scene. I really like it. But getting to see Auber like this is cool. And so then he relinquishes, but then he's like, oh, because everyone feels it. Whenever Rudeus funneled magic through his ring, it was a signal ring to Orsted that, hey, there's a problem. Because Rudeus can't do anything here. The one word of advice that Orsted gave Rudeus, or the main word of advice he gave him when dealing with Rada, the water god, was don't let her set up the deprivation zone. And he was like, well, but she's already done that. He's like, I can't. He's like, well, I guess I have to do something. So he thinks about it. And he's like, okay, no. The boss is coming. We're good. We're chilling. Obviously, Orsted shows up. Everyone's just paralyzed by fear. And on the way there, Rada kind of gives her backstory where she was saved by Darius. Went back later. He was her first love. Obviously, she saw him later and was like, ugh. But then she was like, I realized that debt was never repaid and had been accumulating interest. I liked that too. As her explanation for why she was doing this, especially at the behest of Hitagami, because she is the third disciple. It was Darius, Luke, and Rada were the three disciples. And she was like, yeah. She was like, it's about my time. She's like, I owed him this debt. He's like, he saved my life. He's like, he's the reason that I could even do anything. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to do the things that I've done. And I really like to learn about accumulating interest, because then it's like, obviously this is a much different scale, but it's accumulated interest over time. And so, obviously, Auber takes Darius and runs. Orsted comes in. Everyone's like, this guy, get a load in this guy, right? And Orsted's like, yo, Hitagami? And Rada's like, yeah, what of it? And he's like, I bet. And he starts walking, and she starts hitting him. Obviously nothing. He keeps doing everything. I do also like how the main style Orsted uses is water god kind of style. And I do really like that. Obviously he goes up, gets to her, nothing she can do, and he just punches a hole right through her. She's dead. Right? There's Isolde's there. I like Isolde being kind of in the background in this volume. I like her as a character. I like Eris having friends. Right? In the same vein that I like Rudy having friends and Sophie having friends. Roxy doesn't really have friends. Roxy needs some friends. But I like it when the characters have friends outside of kind of the main cast. I really like kind of Isolde in the background here. But then Orsted leaves, and then Rudy's like, okay, well, and then Ariel's like, okay, go kill Darius. You can't not, we have to kill Darius at this point. Kill Auber, kill Darius. And then so it's Ghislaine, Eris, and Rudy run after them. Then we get the third fight against Auber. They exchange some words. Darius exchanged some words. And the fight itself is pretty quick, but it's one of the fights that I really, really enjoy, because my favorite thing in a fight, like my criteria for fights that I really, really like, is I want everything in a fight to matter. I want every single, like every punch, every critical moment to matter. I want it to mean something. And just the way that like basically every single step of this fight was laid out due to like just the short length of it and kind of the decisive nature of it, and just the decisive nature of Mushoku Tensei sword fights and battles in general. I really enjoyed how one thing really led to another, and you could see beginning to end, A to Z, how the fight ended in Rudeus' victory. Obviously, I think it's Ghislaine that killed Aber, and then also kills Darius, murders them in cold blood, according to Rudeus, and this is the first time he's murdered. But this was a really good fight. Very sad to see Aber go. He's not in the story for terribly long. He definitely steals the show whenever he's there. I would have loved to see him stick around more, but I think he played his part coming in. He's also one of the few kind of like secondarily major deaths, I guess, in the series. Where Aber he's a character that's been around for a little bit. Former ally with Eris. So seeing him die was a little bit weird. I remember in the web novel when I read his death, I was definitely like, they killed him. Like he's actually gone. I don't know if I expected him to stick around and become an ally per se, but I don't think I expected him to die. But I think it definitely works to show the stakes, and obviously Darius himself dies. Not before revealing Flamen just worked under his orders to kill Saros, yada yada yada, all that stuff. And this kind of shakes Rudy a little bit, where he's like, yeah, like I've had to kill people before. He was like, but this was murder. He's like, I didn't have to kill Darius or Aber. And he's like, sure, it wasn't, me that killed them. He's like, but my actions directly led to their deaths. So he's like, that was murder. And yeah, it was murder. He didn't have to kill them. But he did. At least Darius was murder. You could kind of chalk Aber up to self-defense. But he kind of deals with that, and he deals with it more. I'll talk about that more with Volume 19, and kind of him coming to terms with that, with war. Where the murder here leaves a bad taste in his mouth, but the war definitely is bigger and does a little bit more of a dive into that. But he gets back and he sees Luke holding Ariel with his sword against her neck, and Sylphie fighting against him, and that's like, what happened there? So we get the little flashback where we see Flamen kind of come back and be like, oh, Ariel, like I was always on your side, I only pretended to be against you, right? And she's like, you idiot. She's like, if you betray someone, at least have enough pride to stay on that side. He's like, no, stay on that side, keep talking that same talk. I really enjoy. I think that's a really strong moment from Ariel, and just kind of the choice she has to make here, where Playman's one of those characters that kind of been around for a while too. He's Rudeus' uncle. So him dying feels kind of weird. He doesn't die, right? But we're her ordering the death sentence for him. It's like, yeah, there are genuine consequences. There's kind of that with Aber too. This isn't the type of series where we're just going to come out of it unscathed. Right? Like people are going to die. Characters that we like are going to die. There are consequences to these actions that are being taken by Rudeus and co. Right? And so she's like, you're gonna die. She's like, I can't forgive this. She's like, I would have been happy to just banish you, let you live your life out in shame, but keep your life. She's like, but after this, she's like, I have no choice. She's like, you've literally left me with no choice but to have you executed. And he's like, oh, he's like, well, this kind of sucks. It's so true. But we just kind of, and then she calls Luke over and she's like, Luke, buddy boy, kill your dad. And Luke's like, actually, puts his sword to her neck, and he's like, don't you see how bizarre this whole adventure has been, Jojo? I need to wrap this up. I need to. Oh boy, don't you see how bizarre this is to land in one piece? And kind of him talking with Ariel, and we get his perspective, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And we see him talking with Sylphie. Get to see Rudy from his perspective come in. And this is where the one difference is, where he asks Sylphie if she would choose Ariel or Rudy. And in the light novel, she says Rudy, like that's nothing, whatever. Like, I choose him over anything in the world. I feel like that line was different in the web novel. because like I thought that the light novel version was what she was gonna say in the web novel, but like I don't think that. Like I think I remember that line being kind of more negative, where she was kind of like, there are some things over, Rudy in my life. But yeah, that's basically how I remember. I'm probably remembering that completely wrong, but that's like the quote unquote main difference of this volume and the web novel that I noticed. I really like getting to see that. And then Luke comes down, him and Ariel talk, really heartfelt scene. She spares him. She's like, oh yeah, you just wanted to fondle me, right? Obviously, there's nothing else that happened here. And then Flamen is spared as well, as due kind of to how the conversation went. They're rumored the mood. They were like, well, she can't keep his execution now. She has to spare him. But at that point, it's fine politically to do so, just because of everything that transpired. So Flamen is spared. Luke is spared. All's well that ends well. Rudy and Sylphie are happily married. Orsted killed the water god, which is a feat that, Orsted can handle. Orsted can handle anyone on those 7 great powers. There's no question there. Obviously, someone not on the 7 great powers, he's not going to. But Rhaeda, I think, is often a little underrated, just due to kind of her role in the story being a little more minor than absolutely either the North God or the Sword God. Even though we never technically see the Sword God go against anyone, because in Regal did, he wasn't the Sword God anymore, and there was a distinct lack of strength there. He was not 6th world power tier. Whenever he fought Eris, he was not at his peak, but that's a power scaling discussion. You know me, I love power scaling so much. But we kind of get whole story wraps up. Rudy and Sylphie go home. Sylphie is formally released from Ariel's care. Sylphie's like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I really like keeping up with you. But she's like, I just don't think that I can. Like, she's like, I want to support you in my own way. Like, you have Eris to kind of stand there and fight beside you with. She's like, I want to support you in my own way from home. And so that's, she becomes kind of the primary mother of the Grey Rat household, which I really, really like that role for her. I think that, and obviously, I think that she does really, really well with it throughout the rest of the series. So it's like, okay, cool to kind of see that there, right? Go back, obviously, a little bit of fallout. And then we get the big reveal, right? The big reveal at the end of the volume is Orsted's time loops, right? Where Orsted is in a 200-year time loop that he's repeated at least 100 times. He stopped counting after 100. He says he's been through easily hundreds of times. So it's fair to assume this man is probably 100,000 years old or older, which for Dragon Race isn't terribly crazy, right? But from our perspective, it's like, oh boy, howdy, that's kind of wild. But getting this reveal is really, really cool, especially in the web novel and not knowing it. I really enjoy time loops. Like, time travel is my favorite kind of trope, I guess, in fiction kind of stuff. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Butterfly Effect. My favorite anime of all time is Steins Gate. That's just a technicality because I consider Mushoku Tensei my favorite series of all time. So I kind of like, anime-wise, it's just implied that Mushoku Tensei is number 1. So Steins Gate I say is my favorite anime because it's not fair to compare everything to mid-show, but Steins Gate, I just love time travel kind of stuff, and so having an element like that in Mushoku Tensei is peak fiction. Even more so than Turning Point 4, obviously, with Old Deus coming back, and the time travel aspect there, getting the explanation for Orsted's all-knowingness and omnipotence there, and also kind of, I guess, the limiting factor going forward as things change a lot. Where it's like, he's not like Hitogami, he can't see the strands of fate. He just goes off of what he knows, and now, things have been changed so much, yada yada. But it's a really cool reveal, and it's also like, okay, like they're really, the Orsted Corporation is really founded now, right? Like they're vibing together, they're chilling together, they're having a great time together, a grand old time together. Now that Orsted, not like, maybe 100% trust Rudeus, but trusts him enough to tell him this, like his ultimate secret, basically. Like, this is how he's going to defeat Hitogami, is through the time loop. Like, that's why he'll never lose. Like, it will guarantee his victory eventually. The question is, when is eventually? I don't know. They eventually will be the main story temporary title, which is apparently what which is apparently a name you can use for the quote-unquote Mushoku Tensei sequel series, is the main story. But I mean, I love time travel stuff, so getting the reveal of Orsted, I think adds a lot of mystique to his character. I think it adds a lot of depth to kind of a lot of character interactions later, where we, knowing how alone he's been for these, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, how much failure he's had. Getting to see him have successes and getting to see him interact with people is really cool. Like, especially getting to see him interact with Rudy's family, like his kids. Like, no kid has ever been around Orsted like that. Like, imagine how much that means to him. Like, that's really, really special, I think. To kind of see that. It all stems from his time loops. It just adds a lot to his character. I think that I really enjoy getting to see. Kind of recontextualizes a lot of the stuff we see from him. But yeah, there is one last thing I want to talk about with this volume. That is the final chapter, 3 question marks, where we get to see Geese's conversation. It's not explicit, it's Geese. It's Geese's conversation with Hitogawa. The names aren't given. They're kind of stranded. It's pretty obvious. I mean, that's coming from the perspective of someone who knows. So it's like, at least there's a little bit more of a foreshadowing, kind of like in Volume 19, we get more foreshadowing. We just get it explicitly stated that Barigari was an apostle and he was the fighting god, which I don't think that happened in the web novel. I don't know. I'm probably forgetting something. I probably skimmed over it. It probably is said in the web novel. But I don't think this scene was in the web novel. I don't think most bonus chapters were. But getting to see Geese's conversation with Hitogami was very weird. It was very weird. Very like, oh boy, things are getting real now. Obviously, when Hitogami employs Geese, that's when it gets serious, because it's like that's Hitogami's trump card to say his employment of Geese there, and just getting to see that was cool and weird. And I do like how it's kind of established this early on. But I do feel bad for kind of the light novel readers who this might have spoiled it for them. Because I know the reveal, like, when I read it in the web novel, was like, whoa, like, I could not believe it. And so if this doesn't spoil it for you, that's great, because then you get to go back and be like, yo, that's what it is. That's kind of like what my reaction was. I was like, is this the Geese? Like, is this Hitogami joining up with Geese? I was like, that's crazy that we get to see that. But it was just really, really cool. I like Geese. I like Hitogami. So getting to see the conversation where he recruited him and getting to kind of see Geese's thought process during that time was really, really cool to see. But all that said, I think that's volume 17. Altogether, a phenomenal volume. Definitely. I mean, all Mushoku Tensei volumes are peak fiction. I mean, it's absolutely. I don't know if I put it in my personal top 5. But it's definitely top 10. It's an absolute phenomenal volume. Lots of great moments, lots of great character moments, some great fights. It has a lot of what you want from Mushoku Tensei, all packed into roughly 400 or so pages of Rifujine's writing goodness and whatever the translators are translating goodness. And ultimately, good to see a conclusion to this arc. Good to see Rudy and Orsted reach a new level in their relationship. Good to see Rudy complete his first job. Everything went off without a hitch. I won't say necessarily without a hitch, but everything worked out, which does not happen next time. But everything worked out, and it's cool to see. I enjoyed all the side characters. I think that Rada and Auber and all the antagonists were well written. I think that their demises were good. I think that all the little moments helped kind of, flesh everything out even more. There wasn't anything in the volume that I disliked. There wasn't anything in the volume that I wish had happened differently. It's just a very good volume with a very cool reveal at the end and some amazing moments in between. So with all that said, if this found the video, then obviously there's time you like, so make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment telling me what you thought about this volume. I probably forgot some pretty big details. So if you think of anything, leave a comment and I will respond to it and tell you what I thought. Or, we can go back and forth or yada yada. I don't know. Just comment. Kind of boost the video a little bit. The mid-show videos always do well. because that's what the algorithm likes from the channel apparently. So I couldn't leave y'all without mid-show for a week, even if this episode is a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. Whatever, it happens, right? There aren't too many Mushoku Tensei volume reviews out there, so I think I'm doing a service. I think I'm. Like I said, if I need to, I can re-record this episode later. If the audio quality was horrendous and you couldn't understand stuff, thank you all for sticking with me. I hope you all enjoyed the Hawaii stuff in the background. And once again, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.